Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money and taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. It can feel really, really daunting to feel like you're selling all the time, you're marketing all the time, you're launching all the time, and yet you're not getting the results that you want. You're not getting the results you expect. It's not for lack of trying. It's not for the lack of effort, but it's really tempting that when these things don't work to then blame the offer or to say, hey, this is something, maybe I'm not meant to sell this thing, or maybe this offer needs to be completely changed, or I need to stop launching this offer because this launch didn't work. And like I said, it's tempting because you think that this didn't work, so the whole thing didn't work. So nothing about it worked. But the problem is with entrepreneurship, right? We don't know what didn't work. we we don't know outright. We don't know what worked and maybe what one little linchpin wasn't working. It's a whole science experiment, this game of entrepreneurship. And what I wanted to unpack on today's episode was this feeling of, I feel like I'm selling, I feel like I'm pushing, I feel like I'm doing all the right things and checking all the boxes, but I'm not cashing in on that. And why? And the temptation is to change your offer. And I'm going to unpack for you today 3 things that you can do that will help you realign your offer to a more successful strategy and to make sure that you're changing the right things in place to ensure that you're successful in the future. So the first thing I want you to do, if you have launched to crickets, if you have not been selling to the level that you expect yourself to be selling at, the first thing I want you to do before we even get into the questions, the first thing I want you to do is really evaluate your expectations and your goals to go, I wanted to sell, I don't know, $20,000 worth of X. And say, why? And where did you come up with that? How do the numbers support that expectation? Was that realistic? And was that grounded in any data? Or was that just kind of like I feel like I could do that type of feeling? And I've been there, trust me, I've been there where I'm like, well, if I sell X number of these things at this price point, then that's this much money, right? Like I just need to make sure I sell 50 courses, 100 courses, whatever it is. And the question is, well, like, what does it take to sell those 50 or 100 courses? Does the data back up those expectations? So number 1 is really unpacking your expectations. Then I want you to examine your messaging around your offer. So not just in volume, because there's a whole thing about, you have to be talking about it constantly. I'm going to assume you know that. And I'm also going to assume that you have kept repeating and repeating what your offer is until you're blue in the face. Like you've done all the email marketing, you've done all the social media marketing. And if you haven't, there is kind of your wake up call to say you have to be talking about it constantly if you really want to be selling at high volume at scale. So what I'm talking about though with messaging is I'm talking about calling in the right person, examining the right pain points, calling out what it is that you're actually going to solve for them and making them want the thing that you have. So the messaging around your offer. So not just having the offer, which is amazing, but also making people aware that you have it and making sure the right people are aware that you have it. And the right people means your ideal customer, the person who's actually going to buy it. So a classic example of this might be, let's say you're selling tutoring services, right? You're selling tutoring services for high schoolers who need to pass and need to, have great college applications or SAT prep or something like that, right? So if you're selling tutoring or SAT prep to a bunch of college students, who should your messaging be talking to? If you said high school students, you're incorrect, in my opinion. What you should be doing is marketing to their parents. Why? 2 reasons. 1, typically, and I'm being a generalist here, Typically, the parent is the one who wants the results even more than the student does. In this day and age, you've got helicopter parents, you've got parents who are, determining their own social status based on kids' performance. And the parents are the ones who are really driving that objective. Now, the second reason is because they have the credit card. You're not going to have a high school kid pay you a few $1,000s out of their own pocket from their part-time job or their allowance, right? If they're still on an allowance, you're not going to have these kids making a buying decision. The parents make the buying decision. And why I'm pointing this out is you may realize who the beneficiary of your services are, but that is not the client. Oh, the beneficiary and the buyer can be different people. And if you're not talking to the buyer and you're talking to the beneficiary, that could be the issue. That's one area. You have to be looking at who is the buying decision maker in the transaction, because the kid is not going to be so compelled through a pain point to then purchase your services in that scenario. So make sure that you're talking to the buyer and not just the beneficiary of your service. And your messaging should be around the pain points to your ideal customer, the person who's going to have that buying power, and making sure that they're super clear about what your product or service is going to do for them very, very, very clearly. So if you're not clear enough on the results that you're expecting to get for them, or if you're highlighting the features too much and not the benefits, then this could be the issue. So examining your messaging is crucial. And this is probably where most people get tripped up. The second one is examining your audience. So look at your audience size. And by audience, I don't just mean social media followers, I mean anyone in your orbit, anyone in your ecosystem that is consuming anything you're putting out there, whether that be emails, text messages, social media. It could be your own personal network. It could just be, friends of friends, like whoever you are in contact with. Now, who are they? Are they comprised of your ideal client, or are they just kind of people you've met in passing? Are they kind of random people? Are they really primed to buy from you? You may have a massive audience, but a really tiny segment of that are people who will actually buy from you. Also, if you're not growing your audience constantly, then you're missing out, because you can tap your whole audience in a prior launch organically. And then anyone who was going to buy has bought. And now you're stuck with, well, I have this huge other audience of people who didn't buy last time. And I'm going to tell you, even though it takes a few reps in to get someone to buy from you, you really want to make sure you're not just using that same audience and hitting them again and again and again until they all buy. It's just not going to happen. There's still such a small percentage that will actually give you their credit card information and buy from you. So you want to constantly be adding people to your audience before you go and change the offer all of a sudden and think that it didn't work. The other thing you want to do, and this is the key thing here, this is where a lot of people will take the offer that did not launch well, did not sell well, isn't selling, and they'll immediately throw the whole thing out the window, or they will reduce the price, assuming that, well, the barrier to buying is the price. So I'm going to reduce the price. Don't do that. Don't do that inherently, I should say. Do that after several rounds of research, feedback, and market studies, right, on what people are paying for those services. But do not just reprice it. What I would say is, instead of repricing, repackage it. What bonuses can you add on? What senses of scarcity and urgency can you layer on there? What guarantees can you include with that service? What ways can you repackage it, relabel it, and resell it at either at a different price point or at the same price point, honestly. You know how you go to like Costco and there's like the generic brands, the Kirklands? They're the exact same. There's like the Tylenol and then there's the Kirkland Tylenol. You know what I'm talking about? It's not any different. The product is the same. It's just been repackaged. But a lot more people will buy it if they perceive more of a value. So you want to make sure that you're repackaging your offer effectively instead of just repricing it, instead of just making it cheaper. Please don't do that, because then it's a race to the bottom. And you want to make sure that as you're developing offers, you're curating these offers, you're selling them, you are really looking at these different dimensions of the offer and how it's being sold and how it's being marketed. Because typically there's nothing wrong with the offer. It's usually in the messaging, it's usually in the people it's being marketed to, or it's in the structure of the offer where maybe it includes too many things. Maybe you need to actually edit down and simplify. Maybe there's actually something in your offer that's repelling people. I'll give you an example. So, there are a lot of coaching programs out there. And one of the things that I always see is people adding in more calls in the assumption that that's adding value. And I literally told a business coach who was marketing to me, and I said, I will pay you more money if you take 6 of these calls away. Because what you're doing is you are eating up more of my time. My time is valuable because I run a service-based business. I would rather spend, these 6 hours a month, let's say it's 6-hour-long phone calls. I'm like, look, I want to do one phone call a month that's like super effective, potent, and energized. And like, that's all I really need. So if we're doing 6 calls a month, I'm not going to go to any of them. Like I'm not going to put 6 calls on my calendar. I cannot commit to that. That is a massive commitment you're asking out of me. My time is more valuable than my money at this point in my business. So I say, I can only make 1 call a month. And because of how you've structured this offer, this is not appealing to me. And I just want to have one. And for most people, that seems so counterintuitive. But I'm telling you, if you understand your customers' priorities and you understand that they value their time immensely, then you will minimize the amount of elements in your offer that consume their time. Your whole job is to save time. So if your offer is saving someone time or saving someone money, that is the crucial ROI for your customer. If you understand the pain point of your customer in terms of they need to save time or they need to save money, that is what you should be focused on. So if you're a business coach, for example, this is the greatest example using my story, and you're a business coach selling these things, you're selling shortcuts to ultimately save your customer time to get results, right? Because you're trying to save them the time it takes for them to iterate, to make mistakes, to develop their offer and market it. So if you're a business coach or business consultant and you're trying to teach and train your clients on how to do things in business more effectively and to save time to get to their results, then here's the irony. You doing that, but also adding 6 calls to the calendar is countering your solution. You're supposed to be saving them time, but what you're doing is creating more things on their to-do list. What you're doing is you're adding more time commitments in the name of saving time and energy. But what you're selling in terms of a pain point is the fact that you don't have time for this. We're going to shortcut this for you. But it doesn't feel like a shortcut if I now have to block off my calendar for half the week, you know? So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about their experience. I don't want you to just keep offering more in the hopes that, well, if I add more, then they'll buy. No, usually if you subtract, it's so counterintuitive sometimes. But I'm telling you that as a buyer of coaching services and high ticket services, like honestly, the higher ticket, the less touch points I expect in a sense. Like I expect them to be high value and like a punch to the gut and then let me carry on, right? I want there to be like a ton of value in a short period of time. And I believe that the really skilled and high value people will be able to condense that down into a short time frame because they're so experienced and they know exactly what to say. Not buying themselves more time to advise, but saying, okay, here's exactly what you should do, go do it. Or here are the questions you need to ask yourself, right? So, what I'm saying is before you go and restructure your offer, reprice it, everything, and reiterate, I want you to just go through these things. How did I message it? Who is receiving that message? And how am I packaging it to solve their problem that I'm primarily trying to solve? Is it positioned well to do that? If the answer to all of that is basically the right answers, saying, yes, it's to my client, yes, it's to this, yes, it's to that, well, then we have to look at, were you marketing it enough? How were you marketing it? Was it received well? And that's where I would start asking for feedback to understand better how you could have launched it or sold it a bit better. Or if the offer truly is something that is not appealing to your ideal customer. This is a great way to unpack that and to identify what the true root cause of the issues are around your sales. If you have any questions on sales strategy, or if you just want to learn more about the different ways to increase revenue, we've got some more episodes coming your way all around increasing revenue. This is a huge topic coming up for my clients right now as they're trying to sell in 2023 and to use new marketing strategies, including new technologies. If you're interested in that, stay tuned for more episodes coming your way soon. I can't believe how many episodes we've released of Keep What You Earn. There are literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in tax savings contained in our episode library. And there are so many topics that we cover. To make it easier to find more of what you need right now, we actually created a custom curated playlist just for you. That's right, a playlist of value-packed episodes that you're looking for based on your goals right now in your business. Whether you're making your first sale, trying to strategize your taxes, or you're scaling your team, there is something here for everyone. Check out the podcast playlist generator now using the link in the show notes and explore your custom playlist. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.